You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Now, a word from our sponsor, the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute, currently seeking qualified applicants for its innovative Master of Science in Security Informatics degree program. Study alongside world-class interdisciplinary experts and gain unparalleled educational, research, and professional experience in information security and assurance. Interested U.S. citizens should consider the National Science Foundation's CyberCore Scholarship for Service program, which covers tuition and a $6,000 annual professional development allowance, as well as providing a $37,000 additional annual stipend. Apply for the scholarship and the fall semester by March 1st. Learn more at cs.jhu.edu/MSSI.
Hi, my name is Ian Blumenfeld, and I am the Research Director for High Assurance Solutions at 26 Technologies. I always used to say when I was a kid, I want to be a scientist. And actually, I remember when I got my first business cards when I worked at Cyberpoint, actually. The first time I ever had business cards in my life, I got them printed and my job title was scientist. And I was like, sweet, I did it. I wanted to frame my my business card because I had achieved the goal of becoming a scientist. So when I got to high school, I was like, I really want to study chemistry. And I did chemistry and I really liked it. And I realized after a while playing around with chemistry that the part of chemistry that I really liked was called physics. And so in high school, I decided I changed. I was going to be a scientist, but I wasn't going to be a chemist anymore. I was going to be a physicist. I got to college and I started out and I wanted to be a physics major. I played around with physics for a while, and I realized the part of physics I really liked was actually called math. And so I ended up switching my major from physics to mathematics in my first semester of college. I kept getting more and more abstract, right? So I went from more concrete to more abstract, and I just kept going and going and going until I was just dealing with problems in like sort of pure logic. And that's kind of what I wanted to do when I got to grad school. And kind of that's what I did study in grad school. Well, so I got out of school. It was a very strange circumstances. I ended up leaving grad school before I finished my PhD. I was ABD. I was in some personal life situations led to me leaving early. And I left and I became a high school math teacher because I didn't know what else to do with my life. I like to joke that I did not have the temperament to be a high school teacher. I found this guy named Jim, and he had worked previously as an NSA mathematician. And he said, Ian, you are not happy as a math teacher, but you know what would make you really happy if you were an NSA mathematician? And I said, Jim, I don't know anything about cryptography. I don't know anything about computers. At the time, I really didn't know anything about computers. And he said, well, why don't you apply and take the test and see how you do? And so I kind of decided that I wanted to try to move on from teaching and see if I could try another career, see if there was something else for me. Well, I took the test, I did my interviews, I went through all of the security clearance stuff, and I got hired. And I started at NSA as an applied research mathematician there. While I was there, I met a guy who was still at NSA. His name was Sean. And Sean did he did logic from like the computer science side. And I had done logic from the mathematician side in grad school. And he worked for this part of NSA called the National Information Assurance Research Laboratory, R2. And he was like, Ian, you should come do a tour with us. And what we did in R2 was we looked at various and sundry pieces of cryptographic software implementations or specifications, we made sure that the software was doing what the specification did. And I kind of fell in love with that because I just loved the idea that like there's code everywhere and it's buggy and it's broken. But sometimes something is just so important, you can't just test it. This R2 kind of work, I did it like 4 times for 4 different offices, including it actually in R2. And then I got hired after my development program, I got hired directly into R2. I was in NSA for probably like 4.5 years about. And then for a variety of silly reasons, a lot of folks at NSA do this. They eventually end up leaving and going and working for, going and becoming a contractor instead. And that's how I ended up at Cyberpoint. So I took the job at Cyberpoint. And then I think I worked at Cyberpoint on and off, and I actually bounced around a few defense contractors, including a place called Galwa, which worked with us when I was at NSA, and then Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab. I went to after a while, and I was there for about 2 years. I got a call from an old friend of mine who had worked with us when I was a Govy. He had said, "We need someone here at Apple who knows both formal methods of terminal verification, like the high assurance stuff I did, as well as cryptography. And the person I thought of in the world who knew this stuff is you." And I said, well, I had never considered working at Apple. Like, that's not a thing that I thought was in the cards for me. I said, okay, let me see. I'll interview. And so I did. I interviewed at Apple and I got the job. And it was really a tough choice whether we wanted to move, because we had to move to Cupertino in California, which was rough. It was really far from family. But we decided to go on a little bit of an adventure, and we went out there for a couple of years. Personal stuff, sort of said, I think I want to do this. I love this work. It's really fun. It's really impactful, but I really need to be on the East Coast. And I got called by a recruiter who sort of told me that this company called 26 Labs was setting up a new group, and they really wanted to study cryptography. And would I come and be like the first employee? And I said, okay, but you guys don't have very much work in that area. And like, well, yeah, you're going to win it for us. You're going to go build it. And I was like, well, let's give it a try. And I joined, and I was working on other stuff. I wasn't working on the sort of my stuff that was really in my wheelhouse for a while. But about a year into my tenure at 26, and this was around 2019, we started winning stuff like left and right. Started winning all these contracts in my field in formal verification. And it was just like, oh, well, I gotta start hiring people now because I have all this work. I guess I'm in charge of some people. So I started like calling up all my old friends, and I started being like, do you want to come work with me? And we started hiring, and we did that for a little while, and the pandemic hit. And then it was like, okay, well, that was weird. I have been phenomenally lucky in my life. And I don't want to presume that everybody else will get as lucky as I got. But here's what I would have to say. If you're a smart person and you have skills in coding, you can swim. So it's okay to jump. It's okay to jump into the lake. You can swim. Something will get you out. You will be able to find a job. So if you see something that looks cool, if you see something that advances you to the next stage of your career, if you have to take a little bit of a risk, it's okay. Because we are a very lucky group, us tech people. You have a lot of safety nets, and I recommend you use them by taking more chances than you think you might need to or might want to. I like to make it so that people think of me as someone who helped turn a world where there was just a lot of places for people who could do bad stuff into a world where it was really hard for them to do bad stuff. I sort of have this philosophy in my group that we always say people first, science second, money third. And, all three are important when you're running a company, but I think, I hope that carries forward.
This episode is brought to you by Palo Alto Networks, the leader in cybersecurity. As AI-driven attacks increase, organizations can't afford to have network security that's stuck in the past. Discover how Palo Alto Networks can help you predict what's coming and proactively secure against it with a zero-trust, AI-powered network security platform built to secure whatever, whenever, wherever. To learn more, visit paloaltonetworks.com/network security platform.